Okay, New Year's resolutions. Can people hear me now? No comments yet. Okay, so I made a resolution to finish more projects this year, to finish just about everything that I've started. So yes, we can hear now. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Technology sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. We just kind of go with the flow. So I have already, like I said earlier, I have already finished 5 projects this year because that's my resolution. So there's my mom, there's my brother. Okay, so if you guys want to put in the chat line what your resolutions are this year and how you're planning on trying to keep them, that would be fantastic. So I have finished 5 projects already, and I don't know when the sound cut in and out, but the reason why I've finished so many projects is because so many of my projects that I have been putting off finishing just required weaving and tails or blocking. So only 2 of the projects I have here actually required me doing any additional work. So I'm gonna start by showing these projects over here. So I'm gonna step off camera for a second. And I want you guys, I have a favor to ask you guys. I want you to hold me accountable to finishing my projects because I depend on you guys to keep me focused. So, bye Sarah. So here are the first 2 projects that I have finished, and I'm sure if you watch Fiber at 4, you've seen this guy already, but it was on needles last time I showed it to you. This is my bite sweater, as I call it. And all I had to do to finish this guy was sew on the decorative buttons, weave in the tails, and block it. So, oh, okay. So this is a worsted weight sweater, and I found this pattern in a book, and I said to myself, you know, I can do this better than what they have written in there, so I did. But this is made with Over the Moon, Super Moon worsted by Hummingbird Moon. I don't have any Super Moon worsted in the Fiber at 4 shopping category today because we are almost out of it. So, but keep watching Facebook. We will be getting more here in the next couple months. But that is made from Super Moon worsted. But this is definitely something you can use any worsted weight for. I was just crazy about this color. It's called Haunted. How great is that? So that was project number 1 that I finished. Project number 2 was also Hummingbird Moon. This is Over the Moon sock, and I made a hitchhiker. Hitchhikers are one of my absolute favorite projects to make. This just used up like little odds and ends. So this is a great way to use up scrap yarn. So that is Hitchhiker by Martina Bem, and you can find this pattern on Ravelry. But this just used Over the Moon sock, and I pulled some colors to show you guys. So this is the fingering weight equivalent of the worsted that I used for that sweater. This is called Haunted, and I believe this style of dyeing is called dip dye because part of it is blue, but most of it is black, which is what creates kind of the randomness of the color throughout the project. So this is fingering weight. It's $34.99 per hank. There's 450 yards here, and it's an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend. And I guess I'm the only one who's made resolutions so far because I don't see any resolutions in the comment or in the chat lines. So, Marianne, do you have any resolutions this year?
Finished projects.
Finished projects. Yeah. That seems to be a common occurrence. Yeah. I was very bad, and I started another project a couple days ago, but I'm almost done with it because it's super bulky yarn, so really fast knit. So this is also Over the Moon sock, and this is called Moss Agate. And this is really cool. It's got a really creamy base color to it, but it has a tiny bit of pink to it, kind of a little pinkish hue. And then there's some green and gray speckles. Michelle of Hummingbird Moon has been dyeing some colors to kind of emulate different stones. So that's Moss Agate. And then this is Labradorite, and I actually have a sweater started in this too that hopefully I will finish this year. And this is one of my absolute favorite colors. I know it's kind of hard to see on camera because the base of it is so dark, but there are yellow and blue and magenta and purple speckles throughout. So this is, do yourself a favor, come into the shop and take a look at this guy in person because this is a really cool color. So again, that is the Over the Moon Sock by Hummingbird Moon, based out of Longmont now. Her dye studio is in Longmont. $34.99 for 450 yards of fingering weight, and it's an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend. We've got more colors than this, but I just decided to show these 3 colors. Alrighty. Okay, so Allison wants to learn new techniques. That's on my to-do list this year as well. So my next project, my family and I took a big trip in September, and I did this on the airplane because it was a 6-hour flight. This is the Sweet Pea top. Love her yarns. Yes, Michelle's yarns are fantastic. So this is called the Sweet Pea top. This is crocheted. This is on Ravelry. I can't remember if it was a paid pattern or a free pattern, but Marianne will find it and put it in the chat line. And I just fell in love with this. I thought it was such a neat stitch pattern, and it turned out just a little bit shorter than I wanted to. And guys, this is another thing where the pattern's not written in stone. You can change it if you need to. So the sweater turned out too short. So I just added about a 3-inch band of single crochets at the bottom of it. And this is actually really cool how the color kind of pools in that band. It almost looks like, being the musician I am, it looks like a crescendo. A crescendo sign. So I used, it's mine, there's no tag on it.
No, but I'm just
Okay. So I used Dream in Color Cosette for this. Cosette is the DK weight of Dream in Color. And this is a 70/20/10 Superwash Merino, Cashmere, and Nylon blend. I want to make stuff for me. Yes, Mother, you need to make stuff for you.
Is that Geraldine Friesen?
I think so. I'd have to take a look at it. We'll put the Sweet Pea top link in the comment line either while we're doing this or after. So this skein is $37.99, and there's a little over 270 yards in here. And I love this colorway. This is called Kyoto Sunset. And it's such an awesome combination of both cold and warm colors. There's a very deep, dark, rich blue in there, mixed with orange and magenta, tiny bit of yellow, a little bit of a white creamy base in there. It's such a pretty color. This is, again, one of those you kind of have to see in person because it is so gorgeous. And then this one is called Fable, and Fable is definitely more kind of speckly. You've got the white, and then you've got splashes of the blue and the green throughout. This goes great with the color called Sprout, also in this Cosette. So if you're looking for 2 colors that go together, Fable and Sprout look great together. So this is $37.99 again, DK weight. 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon, and it's about 270 yards. And this colorway is called Mermaid Shoes. How awesome is that? So the next project that I finished is another project that I have shown on Fiber at 4 that literally all I needed to do was block it. That's all I needed to do to finish it. So this is my sweater from the Crochet Noro book out of Yukata, and I blocked it, and it's actually ready to wear now. I've got all the tails woven in, I've got the buttons sewn on, and this is such a super cool sweater. It is done in one piece from the bottom up, and then it's just alternate double crochet. Well, there's 3 rows of double crochet and then a row of double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch to create that lacy pattern. And then around the neck and arms, it's just a simple shell stitch. But for this, I used about a ball and 3/4 of Yukata. Now, Yukata is a Noro fingering weight yarn. It It can vary in thickness just a tiny bit, so it's kind of heavy fingering weight to a light sport weight. And of course it's got the amazing Noro color changes in it. So we have this in the fingering weight department, but you could probably substitute this for a sport weight yarn if you're looking for a pattern, or if you have a pattern that calls for sport weight and just absolutely love this yarn and want to use it. So the yukata is a blend of silk, wool, and nylon. There's 720 meters in here, which is going to be about 35 yards. And it's $54.99. And for this crocheted sweater, and granted crochet does take a little bit more yarn than knitting does, I used about 1 ball and 2/3 to 3/4, so a little less than 2 balls for that. So this is color number 13, which we also have a sample of this hanging on the wall here that was made by Claudia. Just a simple knit shawl, and just simple projects really allow the color to sing. So Noro projects are great for, or Noro yarns are great for simple projects or complicated projects, whatever makes you happy. So this is color number 7, and this is a great color. It kind of reminds me of patinaed copper in that you've got a little bit of that copper in there, but then you've got the deep bluish green. And that's just an amazing, amazing color. Yeah, there's a little bit of blue in there. So that's the Yukata by Noro. One of my absolute favorite yarns to work with. And again, it's heavy fingering, light sport weight, $54.99 for it's 720 meters, so again about 730 yards, and it's silk, wool, and nylon. It's actually mostly silk with 25% wool and 25% nylon. I actually, and feel free to join this conversation. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I like yarns that have a little bit of nylon in them. I feel like it helps the project hold its shape a little better, and if you're using it for socks, it gives it that little bit of extra stretch. So sometimes the man-made fibers are actually a good thing to have in your yarn. So give me your opinions. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. So the last project that I finished, hi Nancy, so far, is this guy, which you can actually see at the yarn shop. This is my sample for the Maya Tank class. Maya Tank is a pattern by our dear, dear friend Tony Lipsy, who I absolutely adore. And this is a class I have coming up. I'll have to look at the dates here. March 14th and 21st, and it starts at 6 p.m. This is a great introduction to sweater shaping for crocheters. If you've never made a sweater before, this is a great one to start with. And this uses a worsted weight yarn, so it's a relatively quick crochet. The yarn that I used for this, both colors have sold out. So I'm going to show you the yarn that I'm planning on using for the one that I'm going to be making in class, and that is the Ella Rae Rustic Aran. Oh, I just ripped the yarn band. How smooth was that? So it is called Rustic Aran. It's technically a worsted. It might be a tiny bit thicker than a normal worsted, but this is 75% lamb's wool and 25% silk, and there are 208 yards in here, and they are $17.99 per hank, and it's got a slight tweeding effect to it, not a real bright in your face sort of tweed, and it is organic. For trying to be a little more environmentally friendly here. So this is an organic yarn, and this color is called Lagoon.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, isn't that a great name? This is wonderful yarn. I crocheted a hat and a pair of mitts, fingerless mitts, out of just one skein of this. Or was it? No, it was one. I'll have to double check my math on that. But it's really nice to crochet with. I haven't knit with it, but Gail has, and she really, really likes it. So that is Lagoon. And then I pulled this color too, and then I realized how close this and Lagoon were to each other, but oh well. So this is Holly, and Holly, you can kind of see the tweeding on there a little bit more because it's a tiny bit lighter on this guy. We do have some wonderful neutrals in this yarn too. So this is called Magnolia, and it still has the tweeding effect to it, but the tweeds are about the same color as the base yarn, so it's not quite as noticeable, but it still has that really cool texture to it.
And Marie Ann likes those.
What?
Marie Ann likes those.
Oh,
And Belden.
yeah, I saw that. And then this is Ashwood. This is what I made my hat and my mitts out of. And the hat had a button on it. It's just purely decorative, not an actual functional button. So I used a nice neutral for the hat, and then for the button I used a bright purple button. So this, great for accessories, great for sweaters. Yeah, this is just a really, really nice yarn. So again, that is a worsted weight yarn. This is the El Rey Rustic Aran. It's $17.99 per hank. It is 75% lamb's wool, 25% silk, 208 yards per hank, and it is organic. All right, so that's enough about my projects for right now. Allison, you did say you wanted to learn some new techniques this year, and I know I'm kind of in the same boat. There's some things that I really, really want to learn. I actually have a hat kit that I bought pre-COVID. It was literally a month before lockdown that I bought this kit. And it's the Ghost Ranch hat by Andrea Mowry. And I haven't made the kit yet because the hat, the ribbing, the brim, is brioche, and I am by no means an expert in brioche. So therefore, this is a book I'm going to be taking a look at this year. It's also a great resource for anybody else, not just me out there, who wants to learn about brioche knitting. This is $32.99, and it's just simply called Knitting Brioche. And it's got techniques, stitches, I don't think there are any project oh, there are a few project patterns in here. Ooh, But this is a great way to get to know brioche knitting. I love the look of brioche, so this is something I'm really, really interested in learning. Author, Nancy Marchant. That's M-A-R-C-H-A-N-T, Nancy Marchant is the author. Thanks for asking, Mom. So this book again is $32.99. It's got tutorials, it has a glossary, different stitch patterns, and also patterns for some simple projects. There's some sweaters in here. This one's really cute. Oh my gosh, I think this will be my first brioche project. Isn't that great? Tulip capelet. And I'm not just saying that because it's purple.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. It's so much fun having both Marianne and Teresa here. And there's a nice men's sweater in there, even though I wouldn't say it's men's. This can be made for anybody. Really awesome book.
I'll wear it if you make it for me.
I'm not making you anything. You can knit it yourself. Also, too, if you are interested in brioche knitting, we do have a class coming up with Jennifer. Let me look. We were talking about this yesterday. Oh, there's so many knitting classes. It's called Introduction to Brioche, two-color brioche in the round. Jennifer is teaching it via Zoom, which is awesome, and it'll be Saturday, March 11th. From 2 to 4. I will warn you guys, brioche classes fill up really, really fast, so if that's something you're interested in, you may want to sign up for it here pretty quick. Another good knitting technique to have in your pocket is cabling, or toolbox, I guess I should say. So we've got this amazing cable left, cable right book. Sorry, I know it's showing up backwards on the camera. And it is basically 94 different cables that you can do. And it's broken down in little sections by style of cable. So like a simple cable, a simple twist cable. I know nobody's asked yet, but this is by Judith Durant, who did the One Skein Wonders books. If you're familiar with those, I absolutely love them. So we've got just some simple twists in there. There's some zigzags, and this is just a really cool book. Angles and curves. So this book is $16.95. No projects in here. It is strictly a Stitch dictionary, but this will help you get some really, really cool ideas. And this is also a good way to learn how to read charts if you don't know how to read charts yet. So it gives you the written instructions, and then it gives you the chart down below. So it tells you what the different angles of the X mean, because an X represents a cable row. And this is a really, really sweet book. And towards the end, there's some more complex cables. Isn't that gorgeous? This one's called Baroque Cable. So that is the Cable Left, Cable Right book by Judith Durant, $16.95. And also, this, I know this is kind of just a small feature, but I think it's really cool. This is spiral bound. So you don't have to worry about this closing on you. It will stay open. And I wish all knitting and crocheting books would do this. I mean, raise your hand out there. How many of you have bought a pattern book and you're trying to follow along with your project and then bam, it snaps shut on you? I am definitely in that club. So I think we ought to all petition the publishers of all knitting and crocheting books to spiral bind their books.
I take books like this to Kinko's and have them cut the binding and make it spiral.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Cut the binding and have like Kinko's or FedEx office spiral bind it for you. That's actually a really good idea. So that is the Cable Left, Cable Right book. We do have cabling classes coming up. Next week I will be going into more in-depth into the classes to let you guys know about it. But we do have a cable class coming up. It's around here somewhere. Christy is teaching it. The Road Trip Cable Hat. That is in the classroom, and it is Friday, February 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's a great class to check out. So if your resolution is to learn an entirely new hobby, I definitely have a suggestion for you, and that is weaving. I learned how to weave. I took Sarah's Rigid Heddle 1 class pre-pandemic, literally 3 weeks before we shut down for lockdown, and it was a blast. I learned so much, and then during lockdown, I was able to moderate some of her weaving classes online, so it was this wonderful refresher on how to warp my loom and get started. So what I would recommend is either the Flip or the Cricut loom, but I'm just featuring the Cricut tonight. So here it is in its box. And let's see here. I'm not sure this one has a price sticker on it. Marianne. Oh, never mind. It's $240. This comes with the loom, the shuttles, the heddle. It actually comes with 2 skeins of yarn, two skeins of brown sheep nature spun worsted, and really, really clear instructions on how to set this guy up. They also have videos on their website in case you get a little lost for those of us who are mechanically challenged. And what else does this guy come with? This actually also has some clamps on it, so if you're like at a kitchen table, you can clamp it down because you definitely don't want your loom moving around. But it has a couple wooden clamps to hold it onto the table so that it's not moving. However, if you're like me and you have a pub height table, which is really, really tall, not very comfortable for sitting and weaving at, they do have a stand. So this is the stand, and it's unfinished plastic and stuff like that. Also comes with super, super clear instructions on how to not only put the stand together, but how to attach your loom to it. So the stand is $163, and the whole thing put together, let's see if I can get this on camera. Looks kind of like this. So this is just the sample we have here at the shop. So the stand isn't very tall. It's about an average height if you're sitting in an average height chair. This just goes right over your lap. And what I do when I'm weaving, I actually sit in my recliner at home, but it has this crossbar on the bottom. So I'll put my feet on that. And not only does it give me a place to put my feet, but that also helps steady the stand and the loom so that it's not moving around while you're working, because while you're weaving, that is going to want to move. This is such a meditative, such a calming hobby. And I wish I had learned it even before I started working at the shop, because it's just so much fun. I actually was asked to weave a sample for the shop, and I'd say, okay, I'm just going to sit and work on it for about 20 minutes. Well, 2 hours later, I look at the clock and I'm still going. So this guy, I think it's the Irish Orchid Blossom Scarf. And this is just plain weave, nothing fancy. I just put it on my Cricut and wove, and that's it. This has 2 different colors of sesame in it, one for the warp and one for the weft. And this is what you can do on a Cricut. And this only took me a couple days because, like I said, once I started going, I didn't want to put it away. But this is a really nice scarf, and I've got my fringe on there. So this is what you can accomplish with plain weave and a Cricut. So again, the Cricut is $240 and the stand is $163. The Cricut is great too because it's excuse me, kind of compact, so you can bring it with you if you're like on a road trip and you're going to be stopping at a hotel. I know Gail brings hers when she goes on road trips all the time. It's not something you can work on in the car, but you can definitely work on it when you've come to a stopping place. So that is definitely a great new hobby to learn, and we have classes coming up for that too. I'm cheating, I have the schedule here. So our next Rigid Heddle 1 class is Thursday, April 6th, and that starts at 10:30 in the morning. These classes meet 3 times. The Rigid Heddle 1 class is, again, that's another class that's going to fill up super, super fast. So if you're interested in basic Rigid Heddle weaving, I know April's still a ways down the road, but those classes fill up really fast, so I'd go ahead and sign up for that if that's something you're interested in. I'm going off camera here again for a second. So if you're wanting to learn a new hobby, of course I'm going to recommend crochet. I mean, why wouldn't I? This is a really awesome book called Crochet Know-How. It's got techniques, tips, and it's got tips for all skill levels, from people who have never picked up a hook to people who could crochet in their sleep. So this guy explains to you all the tools that you'll need, the crochet hook size conversion, like from US to metric or US to UK, and just all the tools. Oh, this is a great thing that I think all beginning books should have: the differences in the size of yarns, so you know what to look for a project. And so this shows like how to read a chart, how to hold your hook, how to wrap, and it's really great for visual learners who love learning from books. And I think it may have a couple projects in it, but mostly this is a technique book. It even shows you how to work with beads, which Teresa and I both love. Crocheting with beads.
We love what?
Crocheting with beads.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So this is a great learn how to book. And of course we are offering crochet classes, and we do offer 10 to 15 minute free help if you get a little stuck on something in here. So be sure to ask for either me or Teresa if you need help with crocheting. And Marianne, oh, never mind, I found the price. This is $16.99. This is another thing I wish all book author or book publishers would do, is have the flaps on the front and back cover so you can mark your spot. Because if the book's going to snap shut, I would at least like it to snap shut and be able to find my place again. So we have the crochet know-how book in stock right now. We're currently out of stock of the knitting know-how book, but if you are interested in getting a copy of that, shoot us an email and we'll put you on the wait list for the book, because this is definitely something, both knitting and crocheting, we try to keep in stock. And then for those of you who want to learn amigurumi, I couldn't recommend this book anymore. This is an awesome book. This is Edward's Menagerie by Toft. So it's by Carrie Lord, who started Toft. This book is $22.99, and it shows you all the ins and outs of how to make crocheted critters. And she even has, this is my favorite part of these books, all the different size critters using the different size yarn and what size hook you would need and what your gauge needs to be. This is also a great book if you are used to US terminology but want to learn UK terminology. These books are written in United Kingdom terminology, and yes, there is a difference. So if you're familiar with the UK terminology, this is a great book. If you're not, this is a great way to learn the UK terminology. So again, that is $22.99. This is the very first book that she wrote for Edward's Menagerie. And this book actually just celebrated its 10th year anniversary, which is crazy. Yeah, I know. But it's got so many cute critters in here. Got more basic critters. So she does everything in a leveling system from level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is if you have never picked up a hook in your life. Level 2 is introducing a few, it's still very, very basic crochet, but it's introducing some new techniques like color changes, or like this little gorilla guy, the little curls on his head. And then level 3 is introducing even more techniques, still not terribly difficult, but like you've got a little bit of intarsia in this giraffe, how to use 2 different colors at the same time, and a little bit more shaping in the faces too. And she also introduces how to do like the fringe. So this is a fantastic book, and those are skills that are not necessarily just for amigurumi. These are skills that can translate to any kind of crochet, because there are tons of crochet projects out there that use the fringe, the color changes, the intarsia. So fantastic book. We do have more Edward's Menagerie books on the shelf, but this is the original. It just celebrated its 10th year anniversary, so I wanted to share it with you guys. So this next book I have to show you, is really heavy. This is The Principles of Knitting, and this is one of Hannah's favorite books, and I can see why. This is an absolutely enormous book that talks about all different kinds of knitting techniques, and this again is not a project book, it is strictly technique. So it's got everything in here from lace to cables to terminology to shaping for projects like sweaters, casting on, binding off. And this is just an absolutely awesome resource book just to have on your shelf. I know I have a book similar to this that I consult all the time if I get a little lost on something. So this, it's just great to have on your shelf. It's a great reference book. Great book. Yeah, Mom loves this book. This guy is $60, but for $60 you're getting about an encyclopedia, yeah, a little over 700 pages of technique. So this is a great reference book. It actually went out of publication for a while, and then they revised it and brought it back. So it is up to date and just a wonderful, wonderful book to have on your shelf. So again, it's $60 for The Principles of Knitting, and I do believe this is our last copy, so if you need a good knitting reference book, you might want to snag that. So I've just got 2 more items to share with y'all tonight, and this is something I really, really want to learn myself. Out of everything in the shop, I know how to do just about everything except this. So this would be spinning. And I hope this year, one of my New Year's resolutions is to get into one of Stephanie's spinning classes. So the spinning class starts you off on a drop spindle like this guy. This is the Walnut Drop Spindle by Scott's Mountain Crafts, and this is $24.99. And the wood grain on that is absolutely gorgeous. So this is just a drop spindle, and it's my understanding you feed the roving up through the hook, and then you spin it and spin it onto the top spindle part. So this is what you would start out with in the spinning classes, and then Stephanie does move you up to a wheels. So by the time spinning 101 is over, you know how to use both of these guys. So this is again the Walnut Drop Spindle by Scott's Mountain Crafts. It's $24.99. And then, of course, you need something to spin with besides the spindle or the spinning wheel. So what I have here is Merino Tops by Mano Steel Uruguay. This is one of Melanie's favorite beginning fibers. So if you're just learning how to spin, this is a great fiber to start out with. This guy is 100% superwash merino, so this stuff is not going to felt. And it's $27. And again, with all Mano Steel Uruguay products, everything is unique. So this colorway is called Mango Berry. I've got another Mango Berry over there. Looks nothing like this because it's done by hand dyed by individuals. So even you can actually look inside the card, and it has the name or signature of the artist who dyed the roving. So this is a great introduction product to spinning. And I forget how, there are 100 grams in here. And they are still recommending hand washing these guys. So that would be the Mano Steel Uruguay Merino Tops, $27 for a 100 gram braid. So that is all I have for you guys tonight. Oh, and another thing that I was resolving to do this year is to keep better track of my projects and the yarns that I use them. So I have this little fancy notebook that I got for keeping track of it. And I'm already starting. I've got January in here, and hopefully I'll keep adding to it. So this is just a good thing to do to go back and reference the yarns that you've used. There's also a feature on Ravelry that does that, but for those of us who prefer paper, I just keep track of it in a notebook. So I hope you all had fun. I hope you all are inspired to learn something new, do something new, finish those projects that you started, and we'll be back next week to go a little bit more in depth in the classes that are coming up. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.